So the thing to me is that society for the longest time has linked exclusivity with love and the bond of what it means to be in a relationship. So if you love me, then you don't need anybody else in your life. I will fulfill every need that you have emotionally, mentally, psychologically, if you will. But is it possible to be everything to everyone? Or I guess not everyone. Is it possible to be everything to your partner? Right. And I would say no. And then I would say there's science to back that up. Right. What do you think? Being in a
Absolutely.
committed relationship, I guess we could answer this question.
Yeah. Well, this is a really good one because this is something that we've talked about. And from the very beginning, we may have a different perspective than most people. And so it'll be fun to kind of dive into that through this process. And but for me, human emotional connection is very human. It's not gender specific. It's not related to only males or only females or it's just this human connection is important. And people are people. And so just because of a certain gender, my feeling is that that shouldn't be the determining factor whether someone is a friend or not in terms of a relationship. And that's something that, we've definitely talked about a lot because, you have male friends and I have female friends. And so that's why it's important to have these kind of conversations because I definitely, your movies and growing up, you always see that, it's kind of either taboo or it's not okay or it's just flat out wrong. And that it always leads to temptation. And like, that's the problem. And so how could you be friends? If you're a woman, how can you be friends with a man? If you're a man, how can you be friends with a woman? Because it's ultimately going to lead to sex.
And even if it doesn't lead to sex, and this is how it always flowed in my previous connections. Even if I heard, I trust you and I know that you won't cross that boundary, it was considered emotional cheating. And I understand and I hold space for that. But at what point are we then operating from a fear mentality that I have to control you? And instead of having that freedom or that bandwidth to know that I cannot be everything to you all of the time, understanding that I know that you need more than one perspective in your life around certain things, including your emotions, including how you feel. And if I limit your ability as my partner to have a female perspective, not just a feminine perspective, right? Which is different, but a female perspective around your emotions, then I'm limiting your capacity as my partner to grow. And how unfair is that? In all honesty, how unfair is that? Not only to you, but to me. Because as my partner, I want you to know that sometimes as a woman, I might have inclinations to certain things. And if you think that I'm just behaving that way because I'm a woman, you can ask your guy friends, and then you might want to ask your female friends. Like, is this only happening because she's a woman? Or is this a human response to something that is going on? Because let me tell you, we gender type all the time, whether we intend to or not. And it's something that we really need to talk about. And it sucks, but it's been part of who we are as humans for so long that whether we intend to or not, we might happen to do it. And if we then become mindful that it's part of what we do sometimes, even if unintentional, then we can talk to both our male and our female friends and understand if we're doing it. And we can change a behavior pattern, even if it's unintentional. Right?
Absolutely.
So to me, if I'm saying, no, you can't have female friends, then I'm limiting your capacity to go and have deep conversations to learn about patterns of behavior because I'm saying, no, you can only talk to me. Well, that doesn't work.
To me, it not only limits the other person, but it promotes possession. And that's not love in my perspective. Deep love and trust is actionable. And so if you say, I love you and I trust you, but then you can't do X, Y, and Z, then I'm sorry, but that's talking out of both sides of your mouth. And that's just not going to work. It's just contradictory. And it's kind of hypocrisy in that sense. And so it's like, no, I can't, like, especially if it's coming from one person who is able to be more free and the other person isn't. And I've seen this it's very one-sided one way and not the other, and that could be both for the male or the female. That's not specifically genderized, and that's in that sense. And so it's just, we do need to allow people to feel that freedom to truly understand love and commitment. I feel like that's such an important part, because if you just felt like I'm just dictating who you can be friends with and all that, like, I don't know how you could see that I love you
and experience that love without control.
Correct. Yeah. There's a reason why, control isn't used simultaneously with the word love. It's not like, yeah, you're controlling, like, this is great.
Yeah. Please,
like, please
control.
Yeah. How many, how many Valentine's Day cards say, I'm so glad you control everything that I do. It's like,
and again, we're not going to judge if for some people that might be something that fits for them. And I just want to put that out there. Like, maybe some people really do appreciate not having opposite sex friends, and that fits for them. But our role is always to say, but do you really? Does that fit? And really begin to sit with that.
Yeah. And why? Right? Just is the why because that's what society has shown us? Is it the why because of perception? Or is it like a deep truth and understanding that both people actually align with as an ideology and helps them become the better version of themselves? I think those are two very, very different things, different questions to contemplate. And I don't know how many can dive deep into the why of it. And if they do, it may be more superficial than true depth than they realize.